Now keep in mind that these are only ideas for you to implement in your work. You don't have to use them if you don't want them. So let's start with the key and essential piece to this project. This is what makes the whole unit work as far as the lighting. This is what will control the charging of the battery. It gives us not only a status, the red and the blue, telling us that in red it's being charged, and when it turns blue, it is fully charged. It is a USB-C connect, so it charges relatively quickly. We're going to be powering a small battery, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Now, on the right-hand side, we have our power out and our power in. And that comes from the battery in the two center ports, and on the two outer ports, it's going out to our lighting units. Now let's get to the project. For this project, as with many others, I am reusing the 2032 3.7 volt rechargeable battery. Now you will need a resistor to bring down the voltage to use with 3 volt LEDs. Now Hot Toys just recently put up for pre-order their Batcycle. And I took those images and used those as a reference to work on this project. Now it's not going to be identical because, well, the details that they have are proprietary and it's a whole different sculpt there. But here we have essential color tones and light configuration that I can certainly use to produce this cycle. So let's get started with reproducing this custom cycle. Keep in mind that this is not my Batcycle, it is a commission piece. If you have any questions regarding this process, let me know in the comments. And of course, you can watch the prior video that has a whole different presentation and wiring diagram of how this, well, the other cycle was produced. This one is according to the specifications that the client has requested regarding the lighting on the cycle. And yes, we will be reupholstering the seat with some pleather. So it's just going to make it a little bit different and a little bit more realistic. This is the cycle now fully painted. I won't take you through the whole process because painting is just going to be in the eye of the artist. Some of you may want those military tones, some of you may not. Regardless of what you do, it's important to get this part of it correct. And by the way, this clip is from the prior cycle that was from another commission piece. But on the inside, you can see, well, you can see the front of it. These are the pieces of tape that I used to create a line to follow to cut out the headlight opening. And no, it is not the entire piece to cut out. It is only a small slot that is on the front that acts as a headlamp. Now on the underneath is going to be the wiring and the battery that are needed to be able to produce those headlamps. This is the Dremel piece that I used to cut out those slots. I have already done so. You can do this on your own. You don't need to have it shown simply because, well, it's tedious. It just makes for a longer video that's unnecessary detail. But it's up to you how big you want to cut out those openings. On the inside, you will have to have a diffuser. Why? Because if you don't have a diffuser, you're going to have a hot spot from those lenses. These white translucent diffusing material will actually spread out the light evenly, diminishing the hot spot from the LED, whether it's round, square, oblong, etc. And you can hold these down either with resin or super glue. Once completed, it should look like this, and the excess wiring you can coil up on the ends there to avoid having a mess of spaghetti or wires all over the place. The tape you're not going to see. In this case, this is the older video. There is white lighting for the headlamps. The new one has warm white. This is what it should look like on the inside, and as you can see, you have plenty of room for wiring. This is, again, the prior project, but now on the inside, and it's identical to what I'm working on now, you can see where I placed the recharging board and the rechargeable battery. You will have to cut out a spot for that USB-C connect. If you want the switch up top, yes, you will have to cut out a spot for that, but you will need to create a bridge for all of that to sit on. Now, here's the important part for this project: getting the lights or the wiring inside the body and hiding two switches. You can barely see the switch at the bottom left underneath the actual artillery. Now let's take a closer look. Now for video purposes, I have already installed not one switch, but two, one on each side. One to control the headlamps, one to control the artillery. As you can see in the body, I have drilled a hole to thread the wires into the body for the switch and the artillery wiring that goes to the bulbs. You will have to remove the artillery to drill into it and install the 3mm bulbs. The reason I'm using the slide switch is because it requires less force than the push button switch. The slide switch will stay in place because of the surrounding opening. A button switch can be pushed out of place. Now, in one of the last comments on the other video, somebody requested a diagram of the lighting setup with the board. Here's a quick lighting setup. You can do a screenshot and save it for future use. As mentioned earlier, you will need a resistor with this battery. It is 3.7 volts, but when fully charged it is 4.2. That can diminish or burn out the life of your LEDs. You want to control that with this resistor. Take a look at the close-up and at the color code. And it handles about 100 ohms. It's a 1/4 watt resistor. Make sure you use it to extend the life of your LEDs. This is what your LEDs will look like before you do or implement that resistor. They're incredibly bright, but if you leave them like this, they can overheat and they can actually diminish the life of the actual bulb because it is too much voltage going through there. But at this point, you can actually run a test without it to make sure your lights are working. And not only for the gunfire, but for the headlamps. Here the headlamps are a little brighter. It's a different LED than what's in the actual artillery. So they do burn at a different temperature. And if you don't use that resistor, one of the two is going to diminish in life. This is the entire unit once completed, fully painted. But now that it's there and everything's installed, let's do some touch-ups. Because the more you handle something, it doesn't matter if you coat it, the oils on your hand will eat it away. So let's touch it up. Let's charge up the battery and let's get this thing running.